Have we ever had any kind of coverage like this, say on a murder, an armed robbery, killing, multiple deaths? Anybody bother to show up for any of that? I guess not anymore. Maybe if I had an animal in here being tortured, I might get some. I got a case coming up. I'm sure I'll get your coverage for that. Ms. Dixon?
No need for suspense. The three MyCat protesters, Barbara Carter, Vicci Hamlin, and Lisa Leggio, were set free today. Judge Collette granted them credit for time served and sentenced them to an additional 13 months probation, some court costs, and a fine of more than $47,000 for each woman that will require a hearing later. Needless to say, no Enbridge officials face any criminal charges for the oil spill. But please take a few moments to listen to these three brave women as they spoke before the court.
I believe needed to be done on that day in July out of love. Love for my country, love for my world, love for my children and grandchildren, love for all God's children, and love for you, Judge, and your children. We are living in a dark time when criminals are rewarded and nonviolent protesters are imprisoned. In a more just world, Enbridge executives whose negligence and greed poison the Kalamazoo River and continues to pollute and destroy our land, they would be occupying these jails. Some may believe that if the penalties are severe enough, resistance to corporations who rape and destroy our planet for greedy, filthy lucre will falter and die, but they are wrong. From the hundreds of postcards we have received while in jail, our courage has only strengthened others' resolve to stand up to the real criminals. While Martin Luther King Jr. was in the Birmingham jail, he wrote, "We will have to repent in this generation not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people." I don't pretend to know if it's about good people versus bad people, but I do believe it may be as simple as love versus fear. I understand what it's like to be afraid. I've spent much of my life in fear, but I stand today resolved, knowing that the consequences of inaction are far more terrifying than my fear of jail. Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to say anything, you only have now.
Yes, Your Honor. When I left down that equipment that day in July, it was a gut reaction. It was an emotional response to the destruction taking place around me. I have realized over much thought that it wasn't the best tactic, and while I will stay committed to environmental justice in the future, over the past month I've had a lot of time to think and reflect, and in the future I will think my actions through more thoroughly, and I will act in a much more positive and respectful manner.
Thank you.
I just want to wish you a good afternoon. And see, I know it sounds like a cliche, but I stand before you a changed woman because I am now a grandma. 7 days after incarceration, my daughter gave birth to my first grandchild. And I really can't tell you to have missed it. But I wanted to offer my sincerest apologies for the upset of that our child caused. And while I cannot speak for anyone else, I know that no disrespect was meant. Many lessons were learned, and I humbly ask the mercy of the court that I may be released to tuck my 5-year-old son again late at night.
Thank you, ma'am. Comment, Mr. Defendant's put on 13 months probation, 118 state costs, felony crime victims' rights fee of $130, 500 court costs, Ms. Dixon.
Thank you.
The restitution is reserved in the amount prayed for, Mr. J.P. The bond would be applied not to use drugs while her term of probation continues, and she's still testing if needed. 36 days jail on each count, credit 36 days. The defendant has an absolute right to file a claim of appeal, fill out the appropriate papers, do that within the next 42 days. Wish you luck, man.
Thank you.
That's all. All right, we'll take a short break. Anybody that wants to leave, feel free. Want to stay and watch this for a while? Oh, wait, that guy, are you?